Forum Borealis Paradigm Expansion.
Greetings from the north to the citizens of the world, welcome. Today we put critical focus on pop spirituality, calling out some of the rubbish in the field, as well as emphasizing genuine principles and solutions. With me I have a colleague of sorts, going under the nickname Rachel Pigtail Girl, host of YouTube channel The Pursuit of Happiness, where she offers her own take on various matters ranging from politics and current affairs to spirituality and self-help. She's definitely not afraid to speak her mind and debunk what she recognizes as falsehoods or ludicrous elements in New Age and ufology, and indeed that is the topic I have invited her on to discuss with me today. Seeing as so many people are willing to be led astray by basic snake oil salesmen. Between us, we offer opinions, analysis, and experience in order to determine what principles and values are worth holding on to and pursue further, and what notions and tendencies are best avoided or downright dismantled. But first, a few words about our guest. Already at the age of 5, Rachel had a minor awakening, becoming the impetus for a lifelong inner questioning and a burning desire to understand life, reality, and everything within it. At age 7, she was told she would be in a wheelchair by the time she was 21, due to a serious spinal condition known as scoliosis. But she refused to let that happen and instead became a professional dancer. Her working career has mostly been in entertainment industry. She was Angel in the world-renowned dance known as Cabaret of Angels. She has DJ'd at London's top nightclubs under the artist name Little Miss Mix-It and won 2 DJ competitions in UK and was even acknowledged by Kiss FM to be London's hottest female DJ. She also released 3 chart-topping dance tracks under the name Electra Cute, and as a part of the dance Act Restless. She also worked 5 years as an erotic dancer, even doing full striptease. Being naturally creative, Rachel got her education from Italy Conti Stage School, one of London's most prestigious performing arts schools. Subsequently, she moved on to work within showbiz. However, already as a child, she had glimpses of how depraved the industry is, so eventually she grew tired of it. Instead, she followed her own quest and spent 25 years learning to heal herself naturally and became her own doctor, having battled suicidal tendencies until a young adult and being hypersensitive forced her to understand people, trauma, relationships, and the way the world worked, which eventually made her realize she's a so-called intuitive empath. This changed her life dramatically, and with the tools to filter out overwhelming impressions, she could embark upon her life's quest. Already around 17, she left home, traveled the world, and studied and practiced various systems of spiritual refinement, like shamanism, kundalini yoga, meditation, paganism, kinesiology, EFT, the emotion code, and body talk. She also became a Reiki master, but outgrew it as a system. Her kundalini activation began in her early 30s, whilst traveling as a DJ and singer in Asia. She worked as a healer in remote areas of Indonesia, bringing relief to locals where no doctor or medicine man lived. She studied herbs and energy work in Thailand and China and uses her knowledge to create tinctures that have a profound and deeply curative effect on the mind-body complex. She also practiced Tantra, especially through dance, song and art. Her daily practice is based upon the 5 Tibetans and pranayama. She's met several masters on her journey that she's learned from, in addition to her own inner teacher. However, her true testimony of knowledge and experience is herself, having overcome numerous disorders such as depression, hyperthyroidism, Hashimoto's, heart disease, infertility, sexual dysfunction, arthritis, food allergies, poor eyesight, and immune dysfunction. As a spiritual anarchist, her primary goal is fighting for our birthright to be autonomous and sovereign. At this present time, she's largely focused on helping others heal familial trauma passed down generations and uses modalities such as the emotion code and body talk, mixed with her innate intuitive skills. She believes removing trauma is key to transforming this reality and gaining optimal health. Her prime modus operandi is to offer her advice, creativity, and practical help via her YouTube channel as well as her website, where she offers one-on-one personal coaching, healing, information, tincture, and good old-fashioned fun. She currently resides in Barcelona, where she offers local women private lessons to unlock their inner goddess via sacred erotic dance. Welcome to Forum Borealis, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Al, for having me.
It's such a pleasure too, because I've been keeping one Sauron eye on you for a while. By the way, on your YouTube channel, you have the name of the channel is Pursuit of Happiness.
That's correct, yes. The Pursuit of Happiness.
Or Pigtail Girl.
Well, that's the name I chose to use on my channel, Pigtail Girl, because I always sort of like to have these superhero alias names, I guess. It's just fun. Right. I think it's fun. Yeah.
So, clearing up the basics then. But your channel is called Pursuit of Happiness, right?
Yes, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Pursuit of Happiness, not Pigtail Girl.
Yeah, I go under the moniker Pigtail Girl or Pigtails. You can call me anything, that's fine.
Okay. But anyway, so I can't recall how I discovered you. It may have been from the Corey Goode fiasco.
Or maybe I found you.
I forgot. I have no idea how that happened. But after that, I kept an eye on you, and I have to start with some kudos here. You know, in this field that you are in, that we are just putting a toe in, because we have a lot of different stuff. But we're doing more and more spiritual shows too, so we're building up also a so-called spiritual audience.
Okay.
I don't like to distinguish artificially like that, but you know what I mean.
No, that's it, because to me, this kind of information, like this... science could be a part of it. You could have a really dry scientist come on, but at the same time, he can be talking about something that's really associated to maybe what I'm saying. And then, you'll have someone else who'll be talking about it in a different way. And across all the different ways of thinking, you can find commonality and it all somehow fits together, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the things I noticed with you. It's, the overtone window, what's accepted to talk about, the accepted official narrative.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with you is that your overtone window is so huge that it's just anything that for you is real and true. There's no taboos. I won't go there because there's not a part of this. That's kind of one of the things we have in common. So our ambition is to cover culture, politics, history, science, and philosophy, basically. Throw in psychology too. And that's everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you loved the ancient Greek mystery schools. They had a very special kind of education system. And it was kind of, like philosophy, art, the planets, music, mathematics, philosophy, politics, probably stuff like that.
Yep, that's where I'm coming from. But I don't talk about that on air. But personally, that's my spiritual education. It's kind of hermetic in a way, but it's very old school. So yeah,
it must have been wonderful to have been around in those times.
Oh, yeah.
It must have really...
That was the golden age.
Yeah, it really was. It was a great age, the Greeks.
Yeah, I think it died with Hypatia of Alexandria. the Christians killed her, and after that.
Well, once the Abrahamic story started to run within the Matrix, it all went a bit dark and downhill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same theme I sense out there today. It's just a new disguise. Mm-hmm. Like the skeptics, they're really a kind of the Abrahamic religion thinking. They're a child of the Abrahamic religion. They have this black and white. I think they are basically reincarnated inquisitors and crusaders.
Undoubtedly, because we've all been here before, right? It's not the first time on the merry-go-rounds, so yeah, that's it.
Same lot. Anyway... But in that field, do I dare call it a spiritual paradigm rather than a religious?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, there's so much crap. For one thing, there's all these cheaters and con men, and then there's the self-deluded people, and then there's the airy-fairy, let's reject 50% of reality people. I mean, there's so much lunacy, and I think it's incumbent upon us who are active in that field to vacuum it clean, rather than leaving it to so-called skeptics, debunkers, people with agenda who throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
So I love that you are taking on stuff like that. And so,
oh, right, dear.
So what I'm thinking we could discuss, it's two things basically. Mm-hmm. Just opinionating, both of us, on spiritual matters. Mm-hmm. And from what I've seen of you, I do respect your position, your attitude, your knowledge. You're a very fresh take, no nonsense. I love that.
Well, thank you.
And that's kind of rare in this airy-fairy rainbow unicorn area, right? So that's one of the reasons I want to make people aware of you. Hopefully you get more subscribers, because YouTube, it's not possible anymore to grow.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Totally.
But we can do it like this.
Yeah.
And then obviously I want also to discuss snakes, con man, cheaters in the spiritual and UFO field, and of course Corey Goode. And I don't know if you even know it, but they have attacked you for being another person. Did you know that?
Yeah, somebody, I started to get these emails coming in, but I try to stay out of all the, people now send me links or someone said this bad stuff about you. I tend not to even go and look at it. I'm so focused on my own development right now. I don't even want to waste my sort of consciousness even looking at that stuff. So I've heard all about it, but I didn't go and watch it. Okay. Because I couldn't be bothered to even listen to that energy coming out of those mouths, to be honest.
Exactly. No, I'm with you. Okay, so then we'll get to that.
Oh, I hope so.
And more importantly, like I said, I sense that you are a very open, very honest, very no-nonsense approach to this stuff.
Yeah, that's basically how I run my channel sometimes.
And I love it. And I think people love it. And if YouTube didn't strangle algorithm these days, I think your channel would be much bigger already. But I hope some of our listeners will check you out if they like what we're going to talk about today, or opinionate about today, because we're two podcasters, so we're not pretending to have some academic backup on what we say, but we have our own honest, experienced, well-versed opinions. So go to Rachel's channel if you like it and check it out.
Oh, yes, thank you. I would love if your listeners would come and check little old me out. And it's true what you were saying about the algorithms strangling channels like mine at the moment, because at one point I was getting 50, 100 subscribers sometimes in a day. And now I'm lucky to get 2 or 3. Right. So that's how much it's changed. But my channel is bigger now. So you would think I would be getting, more subscribers. If you did the math, it should be more, but actually it's less now. It's when it's bigger, it helps in that if people share the show, it will become more visible, and as you interact with others, like this show here. And I also noticed you actually got James Corbett on. Wow. Yeah, that's right.
That's quite a feat. I've been wanting him on ever since I started. So I'll try now after this show. I'll drop him a mail and see if he want to come on with someone who's not blonde and beautiful.
I'm sure he would love to, actually. He's very eager to get his message out and to spread his certain field of research, which is very thorough in his research. So he's very happy, actually, to collaborate with like-minded individuals.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I know another friend has had him on too, Alex Zakarias of Skeptico. So it brings hope, because I'm used to very often, if a podcaster or a media broadcaster is very big, they won't come on unless your own show is big. So they're doing, I guess, career calculations, something like that. But I'm totally on board with it. I'll talk with anybody if it's genuine, if it's worth it for the conversation. That's my attitude. And if he has that attitude, all the better for him.
Yeah, he does.
He's one of the best out there. But about the algorithm, I just discovered we've lost, I think 8,000 subscribers.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
It's getting difficult now.
It is. So we have to spread ourselves. I'm gonna establish myself on Minds. Have you considered that?
Yeah, I have already got a Minds account. I think it's under Pigtails 111 or Pigtail Girl. I can't really remember because I kind of set it up, but I haven't really been on it yet enough. But I do have a Minds account. But it's just, when things are starting up, we get spoiled with things like YouTube, how it used to be. There was just so much going on here. And then you try to move to a new platform, and then it's got to sort of get itself up and going. But it needs us to move over there to get it up and going.
Exactly. We need to actually use it too.
Yeah.
And what I don't like with some of these alternatives is that they have a tendency to be sectaric. If they want to succeed in beating Facebook and YouTube, they have to deliberately try to get everything and everyone, because that's what they did, the first ones, right? So if you have one for progressive voices, one for alt-writers, one for spiritual people, one for conspiracies, whatever category, if everything is divided like that, then it's dead in the water before it's even started.
Yeah.
So it has to be something broad, and I sense that Mind is trying to be broad, which is why I choose to support them. And I also branched out to podcast platforms lately. Have you done that?
No, I haven't actually. I have been thinking about it, but I just haven't taken the plunge.
Then I'll recommend, because you are video-based, so I recommend Podbean. Of those, I'm Generation X, so I didn't grow up naturally with all these gizmos. So everything I have to do, I have to study it first. And I don't have time to do anything, least of all study. But I did that because it's so important. And I realized it's a lot of work. I spent 3-4 weeks on everything, from starting to check out what to do until I was completed doing it. And Podbean is one of the cheap ones. They're not exploiting you, but they're still one of the top ones on when it comes to service. And they also allow video podcasts. So you could basically emigrate your channel or extend your channel to something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will check it out. Thanks for the recommendation.
But let's start talking about your channel now.
Okay.
You have lots of diverse stuff. What would you say is the most frequent themes you're flaunting there?
So basically, the idea behind my channel is that I believe every human has just a tremendous amount of potential. And I call us wizards under hypnosis. Because I feel like we live in a system that from the minute we're born tells us all this stuff about who we are. But when you actually start going inward and you start discovering the realms of consciousness and how consciousness shapes reality, and then you start to, peel away the layers, you start to realize that you are basically creating everything. So we are basically wizards, really, or my idea of a wizard being just someone who's skilled, masterful, but we've just forgotten our way. We need to remember this part of ourselves. So I just try to remind people about these things, and I try to help them feel healthy so they will feel more potent. So I might cover like health and wellness, and then I will offer some practices to help develop yourself spiritually, and I will offer advice on sovereignty. And, I try to explain to people about how important consciousness is shaping their everyday reality, what they focus on, what they think about, how to clean themselves so they make sure that their consciousness is at optimum, that's working in a potent manner, to bring out your creativity. So sometimes I might sing a song or do a comedy show because I like to also express creativity.
Yeah, I love your comedy, man. Look, the Troll Award, I saw it today. That's hilarious.
The Golden Troll Awards.
Kudos. You must have done comedy because you keep your face, in the story, which you must do.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny, that channel. Only for that, go and watch it.
Yeah, and I did a funny one, like I'm channeling the Blue Avians. Yeah. I did a fake channeling video too. I do now and again like to do a little comedy thing because I also think we have to lighten up as well. So like whenever I sense that the energy is getting a bit intense or dark, I like to just lighten it all up with a comedy about it to sort of break the energy up, because I'm very much in sort of energies, patterns, affecting energies, and using our consciousness to do that, and the things that we do. And for me, art is the way that I would express that energy. I think that art is an energy force in itself. It's tapping into that energy that Tantra speaks about, and it's always there in the background, this amazing creative energy that whenever you just forget to think and just let go and start creating, not for money or to please somebody else, but literally just to do it and for yourself in the moment. No judgment on it. It doesn't have to be anything in particular, but you just let that energy flow through you. That's you tapping into the creative force of the universe. So I like to encourage people to find ways within themselves to tap into that force, because it's an amazing healing force. It lightens energy, it changes energy, and it brings a lot of joy to you, and also health. Yep. Like this creative energy. Also, in your pursuit of happiness, you should be tapping into that beautiful energy that's there for you, because it has just so many benefits.
Absolutely. Now, I was going to let you go on for a while, but I have to inject my opinion here now to back up what you said. Look, this energy you're talking about, it's so right. First off, AKA God. In the Bible it says, the Creator created man in his image. That just means the Creator created small creators.
Exactly.
As above, so below. Now, to be specific, this life force you're talking about, it has different names. I'm from esoteric background of ancient Greece. That's where they call it pneuma. Mm-hmm. The Indians in Ayurveda call it prana. In Qigong and Tai Chi, it's Qi. In Reiki and Aikido, it's Ki. It has lots of names. It even has some scientific names like orgone and tachyon, but it's a real energy that we can do tap into. And you're so right. It can be used creatively, or it can be used, you can take it out physically in exercise or in sex. Mm-hmm. You can take it out in spiritual ways, but when people tap into the creativity, and we should have a program about it because it's one of the most important things in spirituality. When people use creativity, like you say, they get restored back in their own nature, like healed.
Yeah,
I have a colleague of sorts. She's arts and expression therapist, and their research into that area is mainstream scientific research and is groundbreaking, because they discover that of all the most screwed up people in the world, completely broken, torture, war, trauma, whatever you can imagine, huge
abuse, assault.
Yeah, abuse, assaults, all that stuff. It turns out, forget ordinary psychology, especially speaking therapy. What really works is creative therapy. And you can get torture victims back into life with this. It's one of the most powerful tools we have in therapy and healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to back up what you said there with those facts. People can check it out.
And this is one of the reasons why art is such a controlled part of the media. And it's been controlled going way back when, I imagine in the Roman times and in the Greek times, art was still controlled. It had to be funded. You had to have a patron. certain things are removed, certain things are allowed. And now in the media, you can see how the art has been turned very dark and into very sort of the shadow side of the occult and all this stuff. And it's all being done purposely because art can be so transformative and so uplifting and so healing that they like to keep that energy down.
But then again, we live in very special times because for the first time, I guess, in known history, we have we still have, they try to crack it down, but we still have the potentiality to bypass all these control mechanisms and just go person to person. Like you have a YouTube channel, I have a YouTube channel, you reach me, I reach you. We don't need the bullshitters. That's pretty special as long as it will last. I fear for the future in that regard, but it is pretty special that we can now do our own.
Yeah, and we will, because humans, in human nature, one of the things I love about humans is that we always try to find a way out of a problem. We're always seeking solutions, really.
Yeah, that's in our nature. Hey, a little about your background. You would happen to have like, do you have a pagan background?
Well, kind of. I did dabble in paganism in my teenage years. I was kind of an atheist, but yet with pagan leanings for some reason. I was sort of an atheist, spiritualist, pagan, anarchist or something.
I was raised agnostic. I'm with you. Yeah. Go on.
And so I was interested in that because my mother had actually been into witchcraft, and I'd seen her as a child with her willow wand and crystal ball and runes.
Wow.
And yet she sort of kept it very quiet, that part of herself, but it was there in my environment. Even though she claimed to be an atheist also, she was dabbling in that stuff herself. So I did have exposure to it. But then as I got older, I sort of, because I went to an art school, I was a performing artist. I actually went to like a Fame school. So growing up, you know, Fame, the TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a school like that in London.
Wow.
So I grew up in a very creative atmosphere. I was doing dance, singing, performing. And that sort of, at the same time, though, I remember I was always studying human nature. Like I was just fascinated by reality, the way humans would operate, trying to understand trauma and I guess my own life and all this stuff. And just through internal questioning, because when anyone goes on that path, you start to open up the gnosis door. Yeah. And I would continuously internally ask questions. And when you start asking, you start to get answers. So this sort of at 17 years old now sort of brought me to a point where I started my sort of spiritual awakening, I guess. And at that time, I went through a few different paths because I guess I was just looking for answers. I was looking at yoga, Reiki, Kundalini activation, and then I started to get into sort of New Age and reading like, Madame Blavatsky and understanding about all the channeling that went on in the 1900s and how they were all really into that and sort of Hermeticism. And, I sort of delved into a few different ponds, and then I started looking at more shamanic things and studied that a bit and natural healing and got more into the native ways. So it was almost like I was trying to get an entire education of all the world's sort of spiritualities, looking for commonality, sort of studying, researching, I guess. And then I just got to the point where I didn't want to sort of have a label or belong to a group per se, but then it was sort of more about sovereignty of self. And I just give it the name wizard. That's how I just see it. But I don't really want to belong to a religion as such, because I think we all find our own path. We don't need to label it necessarily, but I give myself the term a wizard in training. Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's a million terms in Theosophy. They call it disciples, but so everybody's wizard, even the Muggles.
Yeah, everyone really.
But the Muggles are sleeping wizards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that. Well, interesting background. I think it comes through in your channel, the broad scope you have, the broad references. I picked up on that. Okay. And I guess that's an advantage too when it comes to sniffing out the crap, the bull, because any field that's not protected will have adventurers, will have merchants, schemers, conmen, etc. That's just natural because they are everywhere and they try to make a buck wherever they can, Or even they may have other motives, not just money. Power in terms of followers.
Yeah, and attention.
Yeah.
And attention. Often it's also attention.
Especially. Narcissism has to be catered to, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that around, and we're going to get to that too. But I want to talk a little more about real spirituality with you first.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to ask you, what would you say are the 5... just random number, but I think that's okay. 5 top approaches or ways or methods or tools for spirituality or to pursue happiness. What would you say in your experience?
Well, I would say number 1, you've got to take care of yourself. You have to take care of the vehicle that your consciousness is driving in. Because if you're not driving in a good vehicle, it's going to make the road a bit bumpy ahead. So I'm very much an advocate for taking care through natural, healthy food, good living, and, clean water, and not putting loads of toxins in your body. So number 1 is taking care of the body. And because when we don't take care of the body too, the organs have a consciousness, you see. So your organs are always talking to you in your mind and sending information into your consciousness. So it can be hard to develop yourself spiritually if your organs are unhappy because, your liver is feeling angry and your kidneys are all anxious and your stomach's full of fear. And these emotions are all coming from the organs. And when we clean the body and we make it healthy, it's like we're listening to the organs. And then we also have to, number 2, is remove trauma. And this is what forgiveness is really about. Forgiveness and trauma release. Because our consciousness is full of trauma, or being affected by the trauma that we carry through our bodies and our lineage. So we have inherited trauma that we carry within our lineage that each generation inherits through the mother and father line. And we also have personal trauma that has developed from the point of conception to birth to where we are now. And all of this affects your reality. It affects your consciousness. It will affect whether you self-sabotage yourself or whether you succeed in what you're doing. So this is a very important thing to do, is to clear yourself of trauma. And I offer many, many ways to do this on my channel. It's one of my top priorities at the moment, to help people heal the trauma. So once you've done that, you've got rid of the unhealthy habits as well. Yeah, number 3, get rid of unhealthy habits, addictions.
So that's like negative virus programs in your system.
Yeah, addictions. And addictions don't have to be just like smoking or drinking. It can be addictions to following other people, addictions to needing outside validation, and anything that you have to get like a fix of, to survive or to fill the hole, the hole that we all have inside of ourselves. So to get rid of addictive traits in your personality. But often when you clear the trauma, it's much easier to get rid of these addictive traits that we hold on to. And number 4, I would say you've got to have some sort of daily practice. You need to dedicate yourself, to something that works for you. For me, it's the 5 Tibetans that I love to do, and dancing and meditation and pranayama. All these things I do on a regular basis. So find something that works for you and stick to it. It's not, you can't pick up things and change with a fashion or a fad and hop from one thing to the next. You've got to dedicate time and effort into perfecting a practice, because that then refines the consciousness, the intention, the clarity of your vibration, dedication, willpower, all of these things. Willpower. Yeah, number 5, actually, I would say to develop your strength of will. Willpower is a muscle and you need to use it. And it's through this willpower that you will overcome all the obstacles that are put in your way. So the willpower to do what's needed to overcome the difficulties.
Yeah, a single focus facilitate that your will can manifest, because there will be many obstacles, and you can use your resources to facilitate that, because it's not just enough to sit on the sofa wishing something. You have to actually work for the manifest. Because will, I ascribe will to fire. I ascribe thoughts to air, water to feelings, and earth to action. So to bring it from fire to earth, like Hermes says in the Hermes books, I'm paraphrasing, if you brought just a spark of fire directly down to earth, everything would be in flames. So you need to facilitate the will through your thinking and your feeling. Those two intermediate levels are very important in order to get it manifested down to earth. So if you do that, then you'll be congruent. You'll have all your layers tuned in and working for the will. So I'm totally with you. Hey, I have to comment upon some of the other excellent suggestions you made there.
Okay.
Let's go to... You said to implement, not just be a butterfly sniffing here, sniffing there. Let's say this life of ours is a path. Now, if you come to the mountain eventually and you want to mount it, you want to get to the top, then obviously you need to stick to a path. Because in the beginning there will be a million paths, and they will all, some will maybe not lead there, some will be longer than others, some more dangerous than others, but you find something that suits you, and you fulfill that. Instead of the dabblers, they sniff on one path, they go a few steps, then they go down and find another one, a weekend course, whatever, right? And they just dance around the mountain and they never get anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's that. Forgiveness, let me say this. Many people, especially bitter people, they say, no, I won't forgive because they don't deserve it, right? Because they rarely do. Let's be honest, they rarely do deserve the forgiveness. So I will back you by saying you're not forgiving for them, you're forgiving for yourself.
Exactly. You're trying to get that out of your energy field. You don't want to carry the poisons and the toxins of other people's actions in your being, because they will affect your reality. They will sit in your consciousness, and they will, I see, we have all these programs running that get stuck in our subconscious mind. And if we don't remove them, they will have an impact on our conscious living experience, whether we know it or not. They're like directing the movie secretly from the shadows, all these things we hold on in our consciousness. They're like little programs running.
Yeah, they're like these bad agents in Matrix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you do it for you. You do it for you.
It reminds me of an old story, I think it's Buddhist. It's this master and a disciple. They come to a river, sort of, not a full-fledged river you can walk over, but you'll get wet. And there's a beautiful upper-class lady there. And she can't cross it because there's no bridge. So the master, he volunteers to lift her over, carry her over, like an old school gentleman. And so he does.
Yeah, okay.
And this stresses out the disciple a little. And when they close up to the monastery, the disciple, he's so disturbed that he can't hold it anymore. So the master asks what's up. And he says, well, we're not supposed to have close contact with women. And yet you... actually carried this woman over. And he said, yes, but I put her down by the riverside. Are you still carrying her? And that's the same principle.
Yeah.
Because when you do replay again and again the traumas, the bitterness, the vengeance, whatever it is, in your mind, in your soul, then you're doubly being screwed. You are screwed from the original transgression that happened, and then you're repeating it over and over again. You become like your own tormentor by letting this record be on loop. And it may be very obvious and ABC for many out there, but I know for many this is unheard of. And you really need to get it. I mean, me and you preaching it isn't enough. You have to experience it to understand what we mean about letting go.
Yeah.
And then eventually originally you said the organs and consciousness. Yes. Now we know, for instance, and this is completely outrageous, but it's true. The gut, the intestines is a part of the brain function.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's why you've got all the friendly bacteria are there. They're all a part of that system. Yeah. This is why we need all those bacteria. Killing all of the probiotics in your body is damaging to consciousness. Yeah. Affecting hormones in the body. It changes consciousness. All these parts of our body have consciousness.
Yep. Part of my daily diet is natural yogurt.
Me too.
Right? And kefir, which is stuff from Caucasia. And those guys, yogurt and kefir comes from an area in the world where people lived till they were 150 traditionally, and some still do. So I swear to that. And then they found that actually all sensory impulses you get is first processed by the heart, just, I guess, a millisecond or something, and then it sends it up to the brain. Obviously, if your heart is heavy, depressed, negative, whatever, then that will influence the thought that eventually is manifesting.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So that just shows you that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, those 5 advices you gave there, completely unprepared. You just threw them out there. So that goes to show that you're not a dabbler. This is something you've thought a lot about. And you told me, I guess that was before we started. You also said you were a DJ. So your creativity approach in life has been multifaceted. You found many different outlets to manifest this.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a writer, I'm a performer, I freestyle songs, like I like jamming, anything that connects me to art. I paint, I write poetry. I once won a competition in the year 2000 in London to become one of 5 London millennial poets.
Wow.
Out of thousands of people. So, I've written a novel that I am yet to publish. I'm writing a book at the moment. I produce music. I've DJ'd all over the world. I spent 8 years on tour in Asia, singing and DJing. So I've traveled. I've been to Tibet. I've performed right in Tibet in Lhasa 3 times.
Oh, as a DJ.
As a DJ. and I've been in a club surrounded by Chinese soldiers working for the local police force. The brother of the visa police, he ran the club, so he sorted it all out for me.
Jeez.
They just ship me in.
Whoa, yeah, I guess there's no way. Yeah, you have to go through them there.
Yeah, so I've had a very diverse life experience through being an artist. So I'm very blessed and grateful, for that opportunity, really.
And you're into herbs and tincture too. You sell some stuff on a website.
Yeah, I have a website called pleasingpartners.com, which was originally, it just started off with tinctures to help people with their hormonal balance and stuff. And yeah, I've got some nice shilajit on there, which is very cheap. Like I sell that really good price.
Cool.
There's a few different things on there. It's really a website for people to enjoy sexuality and health. And you can tell by the name Pleasing Partners.
Oh, right.
And the reason I do this is myself, I struggled with sexuality in this life. It was one of the burdens that I carried, where I carried trauma around sexuality. So a great part of my own spiritual journey has been trying to heal, sexual PTSD that I had and trauma around it and unbalanced hormones. And through my own wizarding journey, I learned to heal myself using techniques such as tinctures. And so through this website, I just like to share things that helped me feel good, feel connected to the sexual energy, because sexual energy is a very important part of ourselves, and connecting to our pleasure body. For humans to end up devoid, at one point I was literally devoid of the ability to connect to the pleasure part of my body, because my nervous system was trapped in the pain body. It's like you've got the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And one is the pleasure body and one is the pain body. And when you get stuck in the pain body, it's like you can't switch back the part that helps you feel pleasure. So it was through experiencing this dysfunction in myself that I started to understand it. And I'm pretty sure that's been one of my missions down here, as it were, to sort of suffer things and then work out how to get out of a puzzle that actually you don't have a lot of people that can help you. If you're a woman and you are suffering from sexual dysfunction, there's not really a lot of help there for you. I searched here, there, and everywhere. For men, they've just got Viagra, which isn't really it's not really a great solution. It's sort of a Band-Aid, as it were. But, when it comes to female sexuality, it's a very empty field, really. Psychologists have got their opinions. But to find what actually works, that's the crunch. And for me, these tinctures that I make, the shilajit that I took to sort of rebalance my nervous system, and the steps I took to using vagal nerve resets. So I did vagal nerve therapy on myself.
Wow.
To take my nervous system out of the pain body back into the relaxed social state of being. Mm-hmm. And then I created these tinctures to balance my hormones, because when you've got an out of balance nervous system, it also creates a dysfunction in your hormonal balance and all this stuff. So really, if you want to, in this world as well, a lot of people suffer from hormonal unbalance due to plastics or chemicals. You know, there's so much estrogen. So I made tinctures for men and for women so they can help themselves be potent and strong again hormonally, because that's really what we're dealing with those tinctures on the libido part of my website. But this is all, you know, it seems on the surface, oh, it's just sex, whatever. But actually, it's much deeper than that. This is about spiritual healing. This is about reclaiming sacred parts of ourselves that we should be enjoying, that we should have access to. And all the trauma around these things needs to gradually just get healed and removed. And I guess that's what my website, Pleasing Partners, was originally set up to cater towards.
No, you're on the money. Wilhelm Reich proved a long time ago that the function of the orgasm is closely connected to the condition of our psychosomatic, spiritual well-being.
Yeah.
Obviously, sexuality is, and he discovered that, inhibitions, emotional trauma and inhibitions will lead to, in males, impotence, in females, frigidity. And I'm actually going to interview a sexologist in a week from now. The program will be called The Dark Places of Desire and subtitled Understanding Paraphilia. Because I know that sexuality is, when we're children, we play. We play games, cowboys, Indians, cars, dolls, whatever, doctor, patient, all that stuff. That doesn't stop. It continues when we become adults, only we call it sex. That's basically where we're unfolding the life energy. That we used to do in play and games becomes channeled out through sexuality, among other places, but it's the same energy we talked about before. It's a creativity energy. And so it's obvious that traumas and pain and suffering and all that stuff will mark you in your sexuality, because your sexuality is kind of like a litmus test for your health.
Yeah.
And so when you said, forgiveness and letting go of negative programs, that's about getting us from minus to zero. But spirituality and specifically pursuit of happiness is getting us from 0 to plus.
Yes.
Right? And in sexual terms, I'd say that Tantra gets you from 0 to plus. But many aren't starting at 0, they're starting at minus. And that's where stuff like paraphilia comes in. Because nobody is born with a hard-on for a sofa or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Fetishes, all that stuff. That's stuff that is thrown at our consciousness as we grow up, especially the young formation years, and it manifests in sexuality. So my mission with that series about relationship and stuff like that is to showcase different aspects of it. And like I said, next week we're going to go down to the darkness.
Okay.
And when it comes to sexual trauma in women, I agree there's not many solutions. I have a dear close friend. She is suffering from something called PGAD. Now, people will laugh, and males usually get turned on when they hear about this, but it's actually serious. PGAD stands for, I think, permanent genital arousal syndrome.
Right, I never heard that one.
Well, it's a real ailment out there. I guess it's a form of hypersexuality, only sexuality is really in the brain. If your body is turned on all the time, but not your mind. And if you're a woman especially, I think that's pretty heavy, because males will read it wrong all the time. That you can sit in school and then you will ejaculate. Nobody will notice, but it's going to be a horror show for yourself. It's like you're trapped in a sexual prison. But obviously, guys hear about that and they get turned on, right? I too didn't take it seriously until I realized over time, Jesus, this is a real affliction, and some people have this.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's what we call nymphomaniacs in the old days, because these people they're not seeking random. In fact, many of them isolate themselves sexually. And they can't be joined with someone unless they really trust them and know that it's going to be.
Yeah.
So that's one example. Another example is rape victims. Very often I noticed one of two things happens with them. Either they become super promiscuous, like they're reliving the trauma again and again and again, or they go to the opposite side and become nuns, like they won't deal with sex at all. So this is just basic examples, but anything we do experience will be attached to especially the expression of the life force, which is sexuality. And creativity is a way to express that life force in an innocent way that it won't cost you a lot, but you'll get to manifest it all the way down to earth when you create something. So that will heal you. Even for sexual ailments, it will heal you. And tinctures and herbs is like anything else, right? When in today's diet, we can't eat normal anymore because our ancestors grew up with soil that were so rich that they could just eat one meal and they had all the nutrition they needed. Today you have to shop here, there, everywhere, and still you won't get enough. You have to use supplements. And why would it be different for the sexuality? So kudos to you for taking that responsibility.
Yeah, and when I make tinctures, I also charge them with intent, because this is also, people need to understand that you can use also your intention. If you're making tinctures yourself or you want to make a remedy for yourself, put also your intention as you're making it. Be very focused in the moment and put all your consciousness into what you're doing. And then, I write on my bottles what it is I'm encoding into my tinctures. So I'm using the consciousness of the herbs, the energy of the herbs, to then encode what I want from them and have a discussion with them, basically telling them what I want. And then I take the tincture after. So I don't just brew the herbs. I sort of do my hocus pocus intention setting as well with them.
Yeah, Emoto, the chap from Japan, he proved it. Scientific, so...
Dr. Emoto.
Yeah. So intention, especially for water or fluids, intention is very powerful.
Yeah.
For some, it's outrageous to hear this. For others who've done their homework, check out Skeptical, my friend Alex shows. He's had dozens and dozens of mainstream scientists on proving that you cannot surgically separate consciousness from the physical existence. They are intertwined. Quantum physics, double slice experiment, all that stuff shows that the observer and the observed are one.
Yeah.
So when I was in Himalaya, actually, and I visited a sage or whatever, he said there is the one who observes, there is what is observed, and there is observing. That's the three ingredients in existence. Sounds pretty basic, but meditate on it. It's so true and deep.
Very, very true.
Yeah. Okay, so we've done a take now on positive stuff. Let's dig a little deep into the darkness. Now, I mentioned to you a couple of names before we began, but I'll give you the ball here. First off, why should we, there's New Age says, why even mention the negative stuff? Why bother about the shadows? Am I negative if I tell people about some of the illusions out there?
No, it's not negative to show, because not everyone's at the point where they're ready to claim their sovereignty. So sometimes we have to speak out and point out and offer signposts to people so they don't get lost along the way and dragged into sort of useless wastes of their energy and time. And I think that that's a service or a gift really to others. It's not to get really negative or hate on people at all. And that would never be my intention. But it's more just to say to people, hey, look out. There are pitfalls out there that you could end up losing energy, losing time, losing hope, as you get led down a sort of, dead ends.
Yeah, losing yourself, notwithstanding. Yeah. There's a lot of cults and sects out there. I've been many years in this field. I guess I've seen most, and to me it's very apparent. There's certain signs I look for. And if those signs manifest, I know it's bullshit.
Yeah, I do the same.
Right?
I do that.
And maybe we could exchange some insights into that. But I never fail to be surprised how easy it is for some of these just unhinged lunatics to get a big following. I guess it's always been like that. If you look at the history of sects and cults, rarely one of them are intelligent or convincing at all. Notwithstanding the biggest cult of all called society. But still, like, take this Teal Swan. Let's just out her. I know we're going to get the wrath of her on our channel when we do, but hey, no lunch is free. But whatever we say now are our opinions, so feel free to sue us. We'll win that easily. This is freedom of speech. But my opinion about Teal Swan is that first I saw her, she was so hyped, and I saw a couple of videos and okay, that's a fresh take. I love it when someone is iconoclasting, not just always speaking to the choir. But I realized this isn't like a sideshow for her. This is her main thing, is just to trash down on the expectations. And to a new ager, that's probably fresh. They only had Osho doing it before that. But still, she has no message. There's no core to her. She's just fencing all the time, it seems to me, to try to, circular arguments. And then there's all the other warning signs, like she's building like she's a narcissist. That's my opinion. And then I started researching her to see are there detractors. It's always interesting to find detractors. Anybody can have detractors, but it's about honesty and convincing and intelligence of the detractors. And yes, I learned a lot about her when I found people who had horrible experiences with her. For example, allegedly she really started off, and this is a telling sign of conmen, when they try their bullshit in different areas, in different circles, and then eventually they find a place of impact where it can last, and then they stick to that. And she used to run with it's pretty wild, Nazi skins, like not just alt-righters, but white supremacist, violent people like that. She was, I think, big in that milieu. And then, seeing how they described her, how she stumbled into this field and how she treats people around them, and that's the first sign. If you can't, you have to walk as you talk.
Yeah.
And so it's just loaded with narcissists, and they're not all men. They can be women too, and I think she's one of them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the one massive alarm bell always goes off in my head when anyone starts to self-aggrandize, because one of the main tenets as well, when you start to go through spiritual awakening, is one of the spiritual pitfalls that you get warned about if you have any kind of master that guide you, or if you've spoken to anyone who's walked the path in front of you, they will tell you that you mustn't fall into the trap of self-aggrandizement. Once you start to notice you have some power or control or something, Kundalini activation. And if you get focused on all the powers that you get, it messes up your enlightenment path, basically. So as soon as I just see anyone on the world scene who's trying to give spiritual advice start claiming to be the reincarnation of Sai Baba, is it? I believe she's one of the Babas.
I can believe that, because he was a
a holy man from India or something.
No, it depends on which Sai Baba, but one of them was a pedophiliac. So
no, I think she meant like the good one, the one that wasn't the pedophile.
Okay.
But this was quite a recent thing. That was the thing that really did it for me with her. I mean, because I never really followed her, to be honest, that much. She seemed to just want to make videos and whatever she thought was, the in thing to sort of get views at the time. Mm-hmm. She covers quite a lot of topics. But yeah, when you start telling people those kind of things, a massive alarm bell starts to go off in my head, because we're all the same. We're all here. There's no one better. Or a part of your spiritual path should not be worshipping or looking up or following other people.
Right.
Full stop. And if that's what someone's encouraging on any level, then I would just turn away. Someone needs to be giving you advice on how to go inside yourself and get answers. You don't need to come to the conference for your salvation. You don't need to sign up for anything to get it. This is what you do it yourself. That's the empowering teacher. So she's definitely not one of those types. She's not the empowering type. She's a give me your energy, give me attention, give me your money type. Well, that's just my opinion,
Well, a genuine teacher, his goal is to make himself superfluous.
Exactly.
And when we see people who want to create sheeples, followers, those are people who are building a cult.
Yeah.
And I think it's like for every person they can convert until their own following, they kind of, for a brief moment, may be able to quench their own inner doubt, because at some level they have a soul behind the huge ego. And that can be put to sleep if it's like they're both addicted to each other. The guru and the blind followers, they both need each other.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going on with her when she's empowering herself and not the so-called followers. It's a telltale sign.
Yeah, and people can literally be feeding themselves off energy. Adoration and focus of energy gives you energy. Like even as a performer, when I would DJ, I could feel the energy of just being the focal point of an audience.
Yeah.
And I was always very aware of the energy I was giving back out to them was going to be, the vibration that I was setting in the room, and not just, oh yeah, look at me, and just like building my ego on it. But I was just trying to connect outwards and send loving, positive energy back to the crowd, because, I didn't want to feed myself off it too much.
Exactly. That's vampirism.
That's vampirism.
I dabbled in DJ when I was very young. I recall the same experience. But I think whenever someone is on a pedestal, on any area, that person, you have to be able to handle that. And that goes to the integrity of your ego, to what extent you're in touch with your honor. It's very important. I'm talking about true honor, not false honor, not pride. But you have to be true to your ethics, to what's right and to what's true for you. And you have to remember your own limitations. And that's what people can't handle. And slowly but surely, the guru, in lack of better terms, will be seduced by the subservient, servile, ass-kissing he or she is surrounded by. So sometimes they may start out sincerely, but then they roll off the cliff and fall down into the pitfall of the ego. Yep.
That's it. That is one of the major spiritual pitfalls, is the Messiah complex, or, the self-aggrandizement complex.
And we see that also in two other fellows. You have David Wilcock. He started his career as saying he was the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce. Now, in Wilcock's case, I think he's a brilliant alternative science journalist.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that.
I think he should have stuck to that. Mm-hmm. But he seems to have taken off now he's tied himself to the Corey Goode fiasco. Mm. And with that came on the market. First I was thinking it's nothing, it's just a fly by night. Because I was covering the genuine secret space program very early on, as soon as we began. By the way, how long have your channel run for?
Oh, maybe about 2 years now.
So from 17?
Yeah, I think it must be about 2 years old, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I started in 15, and the secret space program wasn't a big deal then. Had on some of the serious researchers for that, and it started to get traction. And then suddenly came this, I call it this fake version. Nobody knew who was behind or who these people were. They even used the same logo. In the beginning, they deliberately were sucking into the already existing space program. So many people ended up in their conference. And what was there? Mm-hmm. Just all these people who claimed special powers without having anything to back it up with. Instead of hard research, the good thing with research is that you can provide evidence, you can help people make their own insights.
Yes.
All of our files are free and will remain free. If you like the show, you can show support by donating $1 to help with expenses. Just use the PayPal link on our website, YouTube channel, or Facebook page. Thanks.
Actually, I think we should talk a little about channelers now, because I do absolutely acknowledge that our soul or our psyche has the ability to tap into transpersonal information. Sure. That's even proven. But in order to do that, you have to do the same as we talked about the guru. You have to have sublimed yourself. Because if you have a huge ego, that will block any info coming in.
Yeah.
And so I think most of the channels out there in, whatever they're channeling, a ET or a spirit or whatever it is, they are usually just picking up impulses from their own ego. Like Pythagoras said, the curse of humanity is that we have inner splits. Mm-hmm. So we have to heal our different selves. We have a million different selves. We have to make them one. And if they become one, we may be able to reach that fire level inside ourselves where we can tap into truly transpersonal impulses. But most of them, they just have a split self, and they're externalizing these voices or impulses they get. It really comes from themselves, but they think it comes from something metaphysical. That's just those who aren't just, downright doing cold readings and basic swindle. So this is a minefield, and I usually test. I have some brilliant tests I use that if someone claims to be channeling some source with superior insight, because they have to be able to offer something superior, not just trivial. Otherwise, I could just go out in the street and ask anyone for advice, right? Yeah. And then I use stuff from Alchemy, because unlike astrology, tarot, even Kabbalah now, and several other traditional, ancient, esoteric disciplines, alchemy isn't too prostituted. It's very hard for someone who hasn't studied serious alchemy to know the answer to what I'm asking. And that's always a way to flush them out, because then it's limited to what they can tap into in their own subconsciousness. And usually it's just gobbledygook what comes out. And I know, okay, you have no idea. Even if you're a spirit, go home in shame. You have nothing to offer us, right? So that's one way. But I think this is very apparent often in UFO fields. These fake or deluded channelers. What's your take?
Yeah, well, I think just, as a race, humans, we've suffered trauma on this planet. We feel disenfranchised a lot of the time. We have these holes, and it's like we're just looking for something to fill it. We want answers. We're all aware on some level that there's something not quite right here. It's like we want to peek behind the curtain, but we're not quite sure exactly maybe that we didn't know there was so many curtains to peek through, like layers peeling through it, so we kind of maybe we peel this one and it's like, oh, what's over there? And it might sort of draw us in for a while. And then we look at this one, oh, what's over there? And I just feel like these alien channelers, for some people, they're just looking for this answer for things that's going on in their life. So they get drawn to that energy and they get maybe a bit lost in it. And yeah, sure, people want to make money from it, for sure. And they will sit there and just tell you anything, sell you the hopium, or they even feed off you. Some channelers have entities, like I've actually seen, like I have I can sometimes see things like entities. I am a real intuitive empath. I don't know about Corey Goode if he's actually an intuitive empath. I actually am one.
He's certainly not empathetic.
No,
that's for sure.
I don't feel he is at all, but I really am, and I see like a lot of things beyond reality. And yeah, sometimes I can see that some people are channeling, but there's actually an entity with them that's feeding off the audience while they're listening to the channeled information they're getting fed upon. So you have to be careful that there are sometimes entities from astral realms.
Parasitic entities, right?
Parasitic entities that want to feed off your adoration. They want to feed off your focused attention. They just want to, that connection of energy that you're pouring out to the channeler in the moment. They feed off that, and I've seen that. Not all channelers that's happening with, but a few of them that is. But I have to say there's one lady that I really like on YouTube. Her name's Magenta Pixie. Mm-hmm. Now, she channels, but it's not really channeling. She says she's contacting just other parts of herself that, just trans-dimensional, multi-dimensional parts of herself that see things from a different perspective. So I have more respect for that, because she's basically saying this isn't something outside myself I'm talking to. This is just another part of me that I'm connecting with, and I'm just giving the information. So she's like one of the only people that I really, on that level, like to listen to, because a lot of the stuff she says at the moment actually completely it's just like exactly what I was thinking about and making a show about. I'll see her next video and it's exactly what I was just talking about and sensing myself. She's saying it in her own way, that this higher part of herself has told her this, that, and the other. And I'm like, dang, girl, that's like exactly what I was getting too. This week I've been getting that message heavily, you know. So, but she's not really trying to get people to like follow her and pray to aliens or anything. She just like, she gives people, you know, hints on what they could be focusing on, which I like. She empowers people. So that's how I feel like if a channeler is empowering you, it's going to be, I guess it's very unlikely they're going to be empowering you, a channeler, because you're just giving your sovereignty away when you listen to channelers. You're not thinking for yourself. You're not coming up with your future. I hate predictions as well and prophecies about, oh, this alien says this, that, and the other's got to happen for, you know, for us to get here, there, or somewhere else. And it's just like, well, no, I create reality. Me, I'm sovereign.
Yep.
My consciousness is what's creating my reality. Don't tell me what my reality is going to be. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The key is in the eternal now. There is this ancient saying, if you want to know your former life or lives, look at the life you're living now. Because you're the sum total of everything behind you, right? But in the same vein, if you want to know your future life, look at the life you're living now. Yeah. Because whatever you do now will become an echo tomorrow. So, yeah, we don't even need, you know, if we connect with our eternal now, we make it superfluous, don't we? All these predictions. Or from the past or the future. Although I do acknowledge, it's a guilty pleasure for me to listen to stuff like, what's his name? Corey Brown, Farsight Institute, Remote Viewers.
I do like that, actually. Now that I like. I'm not saying it's not even good.
That's like reading a good book.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's to me better than sitting and watching a TV show on Netflix.
Yeah.
You know, to watch some people, you know, it fascinates me, the idea of remote viewing. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that to me is something a bit more interesting than, oh, I'm channeling Azzy Boo Boo from Planet Z-Bar. You know, I don't want to listen to that. I'm interested to see what humans are doing with their own consciousness. Yeah. That's what interests me right here, right now. What are we doing?
Yep. I'm not even sure there exists any intelligent creatures at our level in this dimension that aren't human. But that's another debate. But when we see these infantile frauds, fiascos, like the Blue Chicken Cult, I mean, so apparent to some of us. It amazes me that people following it, and even when they are facing this, because it's unraveling completely now. There's people, even the Dr. Frankensteins of Corey Goode, namely what's his face?
Weidner? Is it?
Yeah, Weidner. Yep,
something like that. Yeah.
Brilliant guy. And the other one, Bill Ryan from Avalon. Those two guys are actually to blame for the Corey Goode fiasco, and they know it, and they take the blame on themselves. They are doing mea culpas in full public now. But even that, because one of the traits, if you're going to make a successful cult, you can't rally around a positive message. You need the good enemy.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have a positive message. That changes anything. That's money, business stuff. But if they can find collective hate focus, then they've done it. And so they get this persecution syndrome. You and me, we are probably both, what do they call it? The Dark Alliance.
Yeah, we must be Dark Alliance because we don't agree with people that tell us to believe in stuff without proof and just go along with it, you know?
Yes, we're Illuminati. We're coming to get
we
you.
We are Illuminati.
I must say, when they do these things, you know, to some it becomes apparent, some who has some touch with their ethics, Jesus, what kind of runaway train am I on? But to many, it quenches, because the people they often attract are crusaders. They're people who are willing to bash ordinary life and go 100% into this psychosis. And then it just feeds into their, because what's the opposition? Oh, I've been taken for a ride for all this time?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things to accept yourself, is that you've been conned.
And then again, they have rationality, because these people aren't just taking things out of the ass. Like, say, there's many sects and cults out there who just invent stuff. It's just fantasy, like Scientology or Ekankar. But these guys have harvested real research like Joseph Farrell stuff, like Cliff High stuff, and then they repackage it, rebrand it, spew it out with their own opinions and bullshit.
Yeah.
And so if you have a kernel of truth, because I think it was Goebbels, the master of propaganda in the Nazi regime, he said it a long time ago, which is completely true. He said, this is paraphrasing, you have to spew a half lie, a lie together with a truth. Because 100% lie is too easy to be busted. But if you put some truth in there, that's when you can get them. And he also said, the bigger the lie, the more convincing, because normal people, they will do small lies and they will bust others on small lie because they will be suspicious because they know it from themselves. But they can't fathom someone saying, hey, I was abducted by blue aliens, I was in a secret program, I've been time traveling, blah, blah, blah. It's so outrageous that someone can do it with a straight face. Talking about the huge lie. So what advice to give to these lost followers of this fantasy scheme?
Well, yeah. First, you have to understand that there's nothing external that's going to give you the answers or fill that hole inside yourself that need to belong. That we're all kind of born with that, where we have all these traumas that we feel like somehow we're separated or we don't belong. So we search for these things, but I just want people to really understand that they have everything they need inside themselves. Aliens are not going to give you the answers. Following people like Corey Goode and hanging on their every word is not going to bring you your answers.
Okay.
Really, through your own self-exploration of self and doing practice on self, that's where you're going to find your answers, is inside self. It's never going to be an external thing, even though, of course, we can be well-rounded in our education, taking positive energy and read books or, watch documentaries. But that's a fluid form of intaking of information. It's very different when you get stuck on a certain personality and then you start hanging on their every word to the point where what's Corey Goode saying today? What are the Blue Avians doing today? I've got to get my update. I need to know that my salvation is coming from this external force that I don't know yet. I'm just going to blindly believe in. And I totally get why we have that as humans, in our nature to do that, because we do feel separated and we do suffer on this planet and we are looking for our answers. So just to really look inside yourself, and it's not something, it doesn't look bad on you to admit when you've been conned. There's nothing better I've ever done in my life than to look at myself and go, Rach, you were so wrong there, girl.
Yeah.
Thank God you're realising, waking up, because I've gone down, when Corey Goode first came out, I was like, oh, Blue Avians. I thought, what a lovely idea. I was almost getting sucked into the hopium, like, oh, they're here to save us. And I was like, hang on a minute. No, I'm getting this strange feeling now. Like, well, what's this weird feeling? Every time he's talking, I start to feel like I'm being lied to.
Right.
Gradually, the pennies started to drop, And
I have to say, you've made some excellent videos about the Blue Chicken cult. People should check them out. That's so funny.
But I wanted to say that after 2012, I feel that after the Mayan calendar hype that we all got into, we were all waiting to see what would happen. I feel like after 2012, we sort of fell into this, there was a void, because there was so much build-up going up to that point that when we passed through that point and we were all still here and everything was still going along as it always had, I feel like there was just this massive void that opened up. And there was many souls that were eager to jump in, because it's at that point you can jump in and you can start your own new thing. You're going to start the new wave. What can all these people who are now disenfranchised, who thought we were all going to ascend on that date, but we didn't, now they're all lost and they're looking for answers. Oh, we can now scoop. That's now, what's the word? It's available. That energy is available to us. We can now harvest those people into our thing. So I felt like the flat earth theory suddenly came out. We had the Blue Avians, and gradually we just saw that all of these people were suddenly appearing with all these new ideologies to try to rope the lost sheep into their new cult. Forget the 2012 New Age cult, come and join the Flat Earthers if you're a real trooper, or you've got to be praying to the Blue Avians because the ascension didn't happen, because we still haven't had disclosure. Let's all get on the disclosure train. Choo choo, all aboard.
That's a train to nowhere if ever there was one.
It's like, forget about doing any work yourself here, guys. Forget about going inward and actually like chopping wood and carrying water. Just forget all that. Just go and look at, what Corey Goode's tweeting out on his Twitter page or whatever, and watching Cosmic Disclosure.
I don't want to be one of those who, everybody bashes the millennials, and I feel sorry for them because of how they've grown up and everything. But one negative trait with that generation is the short attention span, instant gratification, emotionally based. They can become suckers for shortcuts and quick hacks. And it's not about doing the old school boring work. It's all about finding the shortcut to heaven, and that's the Pied Piper leading you astray.
Exactly.
And it's interesting you mentioned flat earth and stuff. I've said for the longest time, I think it's awfully convenient that the moon hoax thing is distracting from the parallel or the secret space program thing, because there are truths in the moon hoax stuff. But if the conclusion is we've never gone to the moon, then what will be quenched in the same vein? Namely that we have indeed with much more exotic technology than what people believe. And that can explain why they needed to fake aspects of the moon landing. It was in the Cold War and they don't want real information out there. So in a way you see this, I'm not saying I know what's right and wrong here, but I'm saying if we indeed do have a classified space program, nothing would be better for it than such a thing as we never went off the planet. And that feeds into the flat earth, which can become a distraction from another interesting theory, namely the hollow earth.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but I'm saying it's very convenient how it serves to derail an entire focus from the hollow.
Yeah, and it's a very typical, what I'll call it a dark wizard, just for to name it. Dark cabal or shadow self tactic is to confuse and distract.
Yeah.
Everything they do is really just a poor man's illusion to distract yourself from the truth of going inwards.
Yep.
It's literally to keep you looking from one loop to another loop and getting stuck going round and around and around in circles. Anything to stop you discovering the real truth, which is really inside yourself when you ask the right questions.
Amen to that. Or otherwise known as PSYOP.
Exactly.
And then you have the ancient aliens thing. Interesting hypothesis, may have much to it, but everything is aliens, and that's an awfully good distraction from the ancient human civilization, right? I'm talking pre-Ice Age civilization. So anywhere we turn and twist in this alternate field, for every interesting, maybe potentially revolutionary true thing, there's 10 bullshit versions. And I don't think we need CIA to explain it, because there will always be idiots out there. There will always be less critical people. There will always be slave mind people, etc. But in addition, we know we have players who want to model the waters, whose single task is, and we know CIA, for example, took over the old mainstream news, Operation Mockingbird and all this. And why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they, when they see that most people now get their news online, when they see that information is primarily consumed first online, even revolutions are triggered online? Why would they stick to this old school paradigm that only the geriatrics still swear to? Why wouldn't they focus, 100% into manipulating online, which they do?
Well, when I was in the early days back when I started to learn about the flat earth, I did a couple of videos debunking that as well at the time, which I got a lot of hate. But what I saw personally from running my channel, so if you don't have a channel on YouTube, you wouldn't have seen this. But this is my direct experience, that movement had web bots working for it, where I would get automated comments that would come up on my channel almost instantly the minute I would post anything that was anti-flat earth. And sometimes it was literally a copy and paste, because I noticed I would get identical comments on different videos from the same person or a different person. And there was one guy, I think his name was Mark Sargent in the movement. He had a webbot. His messaging, that comments on other people's videos, was done via a webbot. Now, who has webbots like that working at their disposal? I mean, I know Cliff High has a few webbots, but I mean that's seems to be,
he's using them differently.
Yeah, that's to me reeks of a psyops. That seems to have government backing or money backing, because it definitely had webbots commenting, not real people and not even just trolls. A lot of it was robots.
Yep, and we know this also from Twitter. We know this from there's been revelations that people are even hired to spew opinions, to distract and attack. I notice it in one, our most popular video is about the possibility of Hitler actually escaping and not suiciding, which is a pretty trivial historical. It's nothing supernatural or metaphysical. You don't need to have a mind-blown paradigm to accept that or look into it. It's just a matter of evidence and sober, logical, historic work. But that, of all things, seems to be alerting the powers that be, because there are people there dedicated to follow the threads under there and try to distract and convince those who start to reconsider that view.
Yeah.
Immediately on, with all sorts of detailed, that's their job. Who's paying you to sit there?
Yeah, totally.
You know?
I think they have whole offices, some like Big Pharma, with the pro-vaccine movement too. That's done by agents, and they infiltrate like parent groups. I was part of a local parenting group here on Facebook for my local area, and the minute I even mentioned something that wasn't for vaccines, I got attacked so much to the point where I wanted to leave the group. But it was then that a woman contacted me who'd been a member of that group, personally contacted me to tell me that she used to work for Big Pharma as an agent. And she used to be very pro-vaccine until she suffered some vaccine damage herself and her eyes were opened, and she spilled the beans. She was basically a whistleblower telling me, "Hun, I used to do that job. Don't let those people bother you in that group. You know, mum to mum, let me tell you that those half of them are paid agents in that group."
Yeah, right. Yeah, because there's a lot of vested interest there. It's $1 billion industry. And by the way, congratulations. You probably now ensure that this vid will become demonetized on YouTube. By the way, kudos to you for being so brilliant in one of your anti-V, you know, the V word that you just used.
Yeah, you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. What she did, folks, every time she mentioned the trigger words that will make sure it's going to be shadow banned, you just put up a paper so everybody knew what you were talking about, but you fooled the algorithm. Kudos to you for that. Brilliant.
Yeah, I know all about AI technology and how it works.
Right. And they use that for in their battle too, I think.
Yeah.
And then you have the traditional thing, the cult attack, because here's the thing. In Norway, where I'm from, in the 70s, there was this French communist group that had like, I guess, 3 to 5% of the population support. But they were really dictating and dominating the agenda back in the day, the political agenda. How? Because they were organized as an activist cult. They could, if they're just 10 people, they can attack a single one, right? Yeah. Now, let's say their opponents are 100 people, but they are disorganized because they come from all sorts of walks of life. Then those 10 people, or however many you want to say, but still a minority compared to all the others, they can just attack one and then another individually. I mean, 10 against 1. And then another, and then a group who has 10 of 100 can become the biggest group. Yeah. Because all the other are segmented, are differentiated. That's the nature of how these cult things work. That's how the pseudo-skeptics have operated, because they are not the majority, but they've managed with their I have to give them kudos and props, with a very deliberately organized, thought through, agent-like activity for the last 15 years. They've been very effective. And so now they represent the mainstream view, although they're not the mainstream in terms of opinions, but that's how it comes out, and they are taking over the mainstream institutions. And in a small degree, if you zoom into this area we're talking about, that's how the Corey Goode cult operates.
Yeah.
Or the flat earth people, they are banding together and then they attack one opponent. And that's one of the reasons they need a cult, because they need a task force to force revelations and criticism away so they can continue with the long con. And
they have to create victimhood. They have to create their own sense of victimhood and self-righteousness and justification by demonizing anyone that doesn't follow their ideology or agree with what they're saying.
Exactly.
And some good friends of mine, actually, one, you might know her, Groovy Bean, Yvonne.
Yeah.
She does a channel.
I've seen that.
With Jay Wedner as well. I think they've been doing a new series recently. Mm-hmm. But she was really getting gang stalked to the point where she was being cyberbullied and her life was being threatened. And there's some terminology put on David Wilcock's website that sounds a little bit threatening. It's almost like they were threatening our lives if we putting people like Dark Cabal and trying to get like hate speech against us. And Yvonne actually got so scared she had to go to the police, and she went offline for a while. I mean, bless little Yvonne. She's just a sweet little lady. She's just trying to do a bit of journalism on YouTube.
Her name is Yvonne.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered what. Yeah, okay.
Groovy Bean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's terrible.
No, but let's be honest. They've attacked you too. What happened is that I think you can persuade some of their spiritual followers, because for some weird reason they managed to amalgam this into spirituality. Such a trivial thing as a secret space program. That's about weaponry and politics and money and all that stuff. But they made it a religious cult. And some of those people will be open, I think, to people like you and Yvonne.
Yeah.
And that's why they need to take you down. So I remember this. I think Dark Journalist unearthed it back some time ago. There was this girl who used to go to school with Corey Goode, and he's terrified what she can reveal, right? And she came forth and said some stuff, debunked some of his backstory, because that's, ludicrous. He picked everything up on the Avalon channel. Listen to Bill Ryan, he can explain that. But anyway, then they said that was you.
Yeah, apparently.
They said you were that girl. Two different identities. We're talking you, who are a blogger, a YouTuber, who has been criticizing them a little. And then is this other witness who knows him.
Nikki Poljak.
Oh.
Or I don't know how to say her name correctly, but I hope I pronounced it. Nikki Poljak or Poljak is her name.
I don't think it's a mistake from him. I think it's a misdirection, because if he sent them to her, attacking her, she could actually give them real info. Better to attack you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she actually went to Richardson High School in Texas with Corey. So I actually spoke to her a little bit, thanks to Daniel picking up on that. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like Corey Goode has suffered some sort of mental breakdown, even perhaps, or he's got some instability. And I say this not even to judge the man. It's actually like kind of feel a bit of compassion, really, because we're all struggling, to make sense of life and reality, and we all have trauma, and and life's hard. We suffer. We go into delusional states of being. The mind is a delicate thing.
Not buying it.
When you're a man trying to provide for your family, and you lose your job, and you're losing your mind a little bit.
No, not buying it. Look, I could do the same thing. I could do something unethical, something deplorable, just to get my head above water. I'm not doing it. Okay.
No, I'm not doing it either. But I mean, I'm not here to judge people. That's my point. I'm not a judge, jury, executioner. But he's definitely shady.
Yes.
He's definitely very shady, and that's not a spiritual guru that you want to follow, or even someone that you need to. Because as well, the people that you follow, you kind of entrain yourself to different people's vibratory states and their level of consciousness. So you have to be careful what kind of levels of consciousness you're dabbling with and attaching yourself into. I
totally agree. And I do appreciate your non-judgmental, admirable stance here. But I'm thinking like this. If it's someone deluding themselves, no problem. It's not even my job to put their mind straight, right? They're in for their own path, their own experience, their own awakening. But when you deliberately lead astray lots of children,
Mm-hmm.
then then it invokes my warrior side. My honor won't stand for that, right? But on the other hand, in a spiritual view, you could always argue they serve a function. They serve, if nobody's putting out illusions, how will we find the truth? There has to be fool's gold in order to find real gold, right?
Yeah.
And somebody's got to do the dirty job of pointing out the fool's gold. So in a way, he's a part of the big, but those forces are so huge now. They have, we've been through it. They have, first off, we have basic delusions. Then we have the activity, task force thing, cult thing. Then we have the deliberate poisoning of the powers that be, who wants to facilitate bullshit groups in order to keep sleepwalkers safe asleep, because they won't even start considering these things for real as long as obvious lunatics are propagating them. And then we have just basic con men. I mean, this field is so ingrained with all sorts of, let's be kind and call it illusions. So I think it's incumbent upon us who feel that we are genuine and trying our best to be soothsayers. I think it's a part of our duty to battle that.
Yeah. It is a part of our duty. It's because, like, even in the Buddhist ideology, it says that to find, to end suffering, part of the ending of the suffering and on the path of enlightenment is you have to end delusional thought.
Right.
You have to stop delusional ways of thinking and following delusional people, and to do that is a way of ending suffering, basically, because the more you get into delusions, the more suffering you are, because you're getting further and further from truth.
Exactly.
And truth is a vibratory rate that when you tap into it, it does set you free. It sounds cliche, but it's true. There is a freedom when you know truth. It affects your cellular memory. It vibrates in your body, real truth, and it has a energizing and healing effect on you.
Yeah. And that's when you can start doing something real about dark forces in life, because as long as you don't know where they are, you can't recognize them, you're deluded, you're going to be screwed by them. But when you can see clearly, like Jung said, it has to include your shadows.
Yeah.
The New Age, you've been bitching about it, I've been bitching about it, but all those New Agers who are fervently trying to get those unpleasant aspects out of their reality, they don't know what gifts are lying there for them, because just clinging desperately to what they think is the positive is an illusion in itself. This is a world of 50 shades, right? Yeah,
exactly. There's nothing that has brought me greater feelings of joy and healing and completeness than becoming sovereign and just diminishing my ego and accepting where I've been wrong and looking at my own delusional states of mind that I've been trapped in and just going through it all and being absolutely honest and just ripping myself literally to shreds, to the point where once you've done that, then you can find who you really are underneath it all and reconnect to that sovereign wizard, as I call it, inside yourself, that's hidden underneath all the bullshit that's been, placed over you. And when you do that, there's nothing greater. There's no greater triumph in life. That's the alchemy. You spoke of alchemy earlier. That is the true nature of alchemy, is to take the distorted self, the delusional self, the traumatized self, the flawed self, and then piece it back together into wholeness.
Yeah, beautiful said. In fact, to the more materialist minds out there, I know we have some followers of that bent too. Let me just give you a easy parallel so you know how true this is. In business, you can't succeed unless you also fail. Mm-hmm. There's no walk of life where you can just come and grab the throne immediately. You have to go through some blood, sweat and tears, basically. So I second that. If you realize your thread wrong, that's a huge spiritual boost for you. And if it hasn't broken you, it will just make you stronger and it will make you immune of more bullshit ahead. Yeah. So embrace that you have been played or that you've played yourself. Or, in fact, I won't even blame the followers as much as I'm blaming the spewers, because those who sell the snake oil, they know they're poisoning people.
Yeah.
They are of a very dark mind. But those who follow are often, and I know people like that too, they're so good-hearted. Mm-hmm. And the reason they're naive is because they're full of sincerity themselves. So they blind themselves. They see their own reflection in others. When they project this honesty upon others, they can't realize someone can be so manipulative, so untruthful, that it's their own goodness they are sucked into this. And I can't blame people for being good in a dark world.
No.
We really should blame the dark more than the good people. But we have to try helping those, let's call them children, because that's what they are until they embrace the darkness. So they are brothers and sisters, basically, and nobody's blaming them. In fact, you'll be in for a treat if you can turn around at some point and readjust your path, because it doesn't mean that everything you believe in is bullshit and fake. It's just that you were seduced by something resembling it in the outer world, but it wasn't quite it. And who's to blame? We've all been fooled about something, somehow, somewhere in our life. It's a part of our education or formation. It's a healthy thing. Embrace it. Listen to Rachel.
Exactly. We all take the wrong turn. We all get distracted, and just have a good laugh at yourself. Don't take it too seriously. I always try to look at the lighter side of life at the end of the day, and try to pick my lesson from what I've been through. And life is always just trying to teach us lessons. So everything is really just a lesson, and you'll either learn the lesson or you'll get stuck, going through the lesson over and over again until you get it. It's like a loop. It will stay on a loop until you're like, oh, wait, that was what it was trying to show me about myself and my shadow nature. Mm-hmm. That's why I was gullible. I was too trusting. I need to be more discerning. Right, and developing your own intuition. And, I should have relied on myself more, perhaps. You get your lessons from the mistakes you make. So it's all good, really.
Yeah. No, I say trust is such a gift.
Yeah.
That be sure who you invested onto is worthy of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a part of your life energy. And to the laughing thing that you are totally owning in your channel. And I don't think there's a show I've had where we haven't laughed at least once. It's so important, and it reminds me of this saying. I can't keep saying it too much because I've said it in so many shows now, but it fits here, and that goes like this. The world is a tragedy to those who feel and a comedy to those who think. Which kind of explains a couple of things, right?
Yeah. It's definitely got both sides, the tragedy and the comedy. It depends what mood you're in, how you're going to see it.
Yeah. And the nature of the thing and how serious it has been allowed to become. In the beginning, the fake secret space program thing was, to me, a comedy. But it has turned into a real full-fledged tragedy, which is why I still bother talking about it on air. I mean, we shouldn't even have to make programs about stuff like this, but it seems it's needed. And whatever stock people put in me, my listeners, I hope it will rub off onto you, because I recognize you as a very sincere person who speaks from your truth.
No, thank you. And I really enjoy your shows too. I have watched quite a few of your shows.
Nice.
I particularly like the Cliff High. Was it about Antarctica? You did like a three-lot series. I really enjoyed that.
He's brilliant. He even came back for update, so you'll have that to look forward to.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, part 4, so to speak. So some words of wisdom on parting.
Yeah, I mean, my words of wisdom is to every single listener to just realize how reality works is you are generating it from your consciousness. The reality you experience, as you said before, in the future is directly related to the thoughts, the words, the feelings, the actions that you are doing right now. So use that, become sovereign. Don't allow other people to tell you what you're going to think today, how you're going to feel about something, what you're going to be against, what you're going to be for today. And another massive advice in this game of consciousness to me too is to just stop tuning into media that is just feeding into all the fears and the dramas, and just really clear out all the traumas, fears and dramas in yourself. You know, that's really the best thing to do this year in particular, is to really work on cleaning up yourself emotionally and spiritually, and just really realizing that the power is with you. You are a sovereign wizard, and you were born to be a creator, and you have all that you need to create. You just need to dig through all the garbage to get to it all. So that's really my point that I'd like to if I can leave people with that understanding of just how amazing they truly are.
I guess time is one of our most valuable, yes, call it the commodities. And what you invested in is so important. I agree. If you pollute your mind with the propaganda press or the negative stuff, when I say negative, what I mean is there was this test in ancient Greece. Was it Socrates? He said someone wanted to tell him a rumor, and he stopped them and he said, look, before you tell me this, first off, do you know for sure it's true? No, I don't know for sure. Okay. Second, will it do anything good for me to know about it? No, not really. It's not about you. What was the third again? Damn, I'm really screwing up this brilliant quote. Maybe it was relevant then, but here the point is, put whatever you consume through that filter. The reason we are focusing on quote-unquote negative stuff now is because it is useful. It is good for people to know about this. But if this was all we did, our message wouldn't be really... It reminds me of politics too. If they want to beat Trump, they have to get out of the Trump derangement syndrome, and they have to offer a positive alternative to what. Yeah. But this just bashing something that is bad isn't really a position. It's just an anti-position.
It's a trap. Actually, it's a trap.
Yeah, it's reactionary.
It's a trap. It'll keep you stuck in a loop, because whatever you fight against, like what you resist persists. Yeah. It's far better to step out of the paradigm and start creating your own paradigm, using your creative faculties of word, action, thought, attention, focus, movement. All of these things is what we can do to bring the reality we want into being now. We need to focus, instead of focusing on what other people are telling us is going to be the solution for this, that, and the other, we need to think about, is that really what I want? You know, what do you want? What do you want to see happening next year? What would your solution be? What would your ideal, environment be? Or what kind of governance would you like to see, if any, at all? And start to really be creative and really get into your own, get outside of the dogmas and belief systems and labels that we're given, and start to try to formulate how you would like to see reality, and then work towards that becoming manifest.
Light a beacon or support other beacons. And to quote Miguel Connor of Aeon Diagnostic Radio, he says it brilliantly: be the strange you want to see in the world.
I'm definitely up for that.
Yeah. But one important addition to that is that in addition to we have to manifest it and implement it ourselves, because we are the hands of the creator, and like you say, no savior will come and do it for us. Sure, in addition to walking the walk ourselves, I think it's also important to give a nudge to others that we recognize are on that, to band together in coalitions, I'd say.
Very much so.
Right?
Very much so.
So if I agree with you, Rachel, on something, I support you on that cause. If I disagree with you on something, I don't have to relate to that. I don't have to support that, because this is the difference between compromise and coalition. A compromise always leaves people, both parts, shorter than they came into it, because then you have to give away something you believe in. That's the real politics bullshit. That's the party politic thing, compromises. But coalitions is the name of the game, because you never sacrifice one single principle, but you're willing to join with whoever supports you on that policy, on cause, on ideal. And that's how I think culture is being moved forward. It is by joining up with people without judging them. Because if someone is against war, I don't give a crap why. Even if it's a so-called sinister, even if it's, I'm against war because then my own country will prosper and dominate the others. Sure, whatever. I agree with you. I won't probably agree with you on something else that we can discuss later, but on this point, come into my tent if you're against war.
Exactly.
That's an example of what I mean. And another thing I want to comment that you said it in another way, but we don't have to at all times make our minds up about something. In this huge complex world, most of it will be mysteries and unknowns to us. And so we can entertain hypotheses, we can entertain our intuition, our preliminary ideas about something, but the need to rush to judgment and black and white it immediately, that's a disease going on. Mm-hmm. Just take a step back, take a deep breath, consider it, put it on the shelf. If it ever becomes true, fine, you have it confirmed. If not, or if it's even become falsified, even better, you know this is fool's gold. That's a very spiritual practice, I think, not to immediately have to have the answer about everything.
No, that's it. I totally agree with that. We can sometimes get lost in our quest for information where it might distract us from the real work, which is sort of the liberation of self. And really knowing the self is far more important than even knowing that ancient history. Now, ancient history is interesting, of course, to know where you come from, but it can be a bit of entertainment, a bit of interest. But then you also need to focus on the now, the present moment. And the real answer is just basically you need to get to know who you are on the inside. That's really to discover and play with your consciousness and understand the way consciousness interacts with reality. There's really no greater understanding as far as I can see.
Do you believe that we have ingrained, maybe in our DNA, if not certainly in our collective consciousness, the answers to most things?
I do think that if you ask a question long enough, you can get an answer. But it can be quite difficult trying to figure out the historical facts exactly. I think for any of us, we can only sort of extrapolate, unless we remote view, of course, like the far sight guys. Yeah. But even that, I take it with a pinch of salt. It's interesting, but I can't prove it, so it's just there on the shelf, something of interest. But sorry, I lost my train of thought there. If you correct me what we were saying.
Well, about having ingrained in our DNA, we can unlock potentials.
I do. That was the point. I do believe we have genetic memory through our ancestral lineage of events that we can access through meditation. I definitely believe that. And one thing I like to do is muscle testing. Apart from the development of intuition and empathy to be able to read information, muscle testing is quite an interesting way to get answers. So I've got quite good now at clearing my mind, clearing my body, and then trying to ask, is this true? Yes or no? And is this information more correct? And it's just for myself. It's not like I'm going to write a book and tell everyone, how I feel based on my muscle testing. But for me, I feel like it sometimes offers me a more direct answer. So I like to sometimes play around with kinesiology a little bit when I'm trying to get down to, sometimes I get focused on one bit of information, like I want to know what really happened just before that flood hit there. What were those beings really doing? And were we really created maybe by the Anunnaki, or were we really here before? And were we advanced and they actually sort of took us down, devolved us? That was another theory I had, that we were already evolved and they actually did something to devolve us and turn us more into a slave state, rather than they created us from, Neanderthals. Yeah. So when I'm sort of going on this train of thought in my mind, trying to get answers, I will sometimes muscle test just for fun. It's more like, for me, for fun, really, just to see what it says.
And so you bypass the confused mind and you let the body answer directly.
Yeah, and I guess because the genes or the DNA will hold the answers. So by clearing the mind and allowing the body to answer, it's like I'm accessing that level of knowledge in myself.
And no doubt in your channel you give many practical advices, right?
Yeah, I do. I like to give people real tools that they can apply. And my ultimate dream would be that everyone who followed my channel for a certain amount of time, after a while, they would just switch it off and never look at YouTube again. And they would just, I'd be out of a job and they'd all be wizarding in the forest somewhere, creating amazing realities.
Don't worry. You have a never-ending supply of souls out there, okay?
So that's, I'm very much about self-empowering people, giving them the tools so they can do it for self. Yeah. I'm all about being your own source of everything, your own doctor, your own guru, your own therapist, your own friends. I'm very much about self-sufficiency and sovereignty.
Yeah. Well, the day you run out of potential audience is the day we've all transcended into a higher dimension, I think. So, no, I'm afraid we both have our work cut out for us for a long time. But of course, we will be challenged by the algorithm, the AI, the multinational corporations taking over YouTube, all that stuff. And that's I think is the only challenge in terms of reaching people right now, today.
Yeah, I do mirror my videos on BitChute, but BitChute doesn't seem to have too much action. It's a lot of cryptocurrency people over there, but not so much truthers or spiritual seekers, I guess. But I do get a few views over there, so I have tried to put my videos up on other platforms, and I will expand that as we go along, and I guess it will metamorphosize now. YouTube's just nailing the coffin, really, for themselves, because a lot of their flow was coming from alt-right, truthers, fringe and nut jobs, lovely nut jobs like myself, just going down rabbit holes on YouTube, Sunday night, Saturday night, just like, okay, 3 hours of YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah, but they believe they got something better in store. They think that the mainstream old school channels, TV, papers.
Yeah, Netflix, right? Netflix now are trying to do conspiracy theory documentaries. They did one on Flat Earth. I didn't watch it, but I was like, yeah, that's where it's going. They're trying to push this stuff into mainstream TV networks, so that will be where they want you to go again.
Yeah, Gaia TV is a brilliant example. But yeah. I think YouTube is going to cater, I know YouTube is going to, the plan is to, when TV and papers are dead, people are going to access the mainstream stuff at YouTube. And that's the path they've chose after Google took over. Fine. I hope something better will replace, because there's a huge market potential for something better. And I don't know if BitChute will make it, but let's make a deal. Let's meet at Minds at least.
Okay, yeah, I will find you on Minds. I think I'm Pigtails or Pigtail Girl on Minds. I'm pretty sure I would search.
Well, I'm not there yet, but I'm coming, and I'm going to track you down, and I'm going to see if Minds can become, I hope that can become an option to YouTube, because, like I said before today, I think that's the one that has the best potential in terms of broad, because if they are just singling out parts of the subversive counterculture, then it's doomed to fail. But if they can encompass everything, everyone, like YouTube originally did, that's when we're going to see a new renaissance, I think, in online broadcasting.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to, people have got to start understanding that the reason all these shadow networks do so well is that they just have infinite funds backing them.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important to put your money into projects that you believe in. So if you see a platform like Minds, or trying to start off, or people just making good information, you have to support it financially. You've got to put your money there, because Netflix, they're getting loads of money. I think even George Soros gave them some money. The things that the mainstream want to be there, they're going to get so much money chucked at them that you won't be able to compete or stay afloat or develop yourself.
Do you receive donations?
Oh, sometimes, yeah, I do sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, you facilitate that, right?
Yeah, it's nice. So I don't make many donations, but now and again people send me something, and it really helps. Cool. It makes me feel like it's worth my while, or I'm getting some energy back at the end of the day, because we all need currency to survive, right?
Absolutely.
And it's true, as an artist, even as a musician or singer-songwriter, people who are making disgusting songs with horrible lyrics, with dark energy and bad videos, they've got millions and millions of pounds supporting them right now. Yeah. Whereas an artist like myself, who wants to make really positive, uplifting music, there's not going to, there's no money for us. The only money we're going to get is from people who want to support artists like us, being able to then release music and come up against that very negative energy. But if people don't support people with current and energy, then new systems, they won't develop, new kinds of art won't develop. We've got to start supporting. I always support other people's channels too. I like to donate. I donated to Farsight. I bought Cliff High's reports. I bought some C60 off Ken the Scientist, who came on my show. I always try to support. If I'm watching someone's channel, I try to support it, because I know that that's me saying to the universe, here's my current. My currency is my current. It's a part of my energy, and I'm going to give it to support this. And it's me saying to the universe that I want to see more of that in my reality. Because when you give money to something, it's like a covenant. You're saying, this is what I want to see more of. I'm giving energy to it.
Yep. And but do you put your music out on your channel too?
Oh, I've just started dabbling recently by putting. I put a track on. It's just free for people to listen to. It's in 432 hertz. I made a kind of chill out song, and I'm going to be doing a house track. I'm thinking I'm going to do a little positive music album. It's going to be some different kinds of vibes. I'm very much from a house and techno background personally, but I've also got classical training, and I love sort of ambience and chill hop and different kind of music. So I just try to let the art flow through me in the moment. What the energy of the moment is will be the kind of track that will come through me. And it's all very shamanic when I make music. It literally is an energy that just takes over my body and then just wants to express itself. So I just sort of do it in a crazy few hours, in my front room. I'll write it all down and get the music going. So I do want to expand on that a bit. It's always been my passion, really. Music was my first passion in life. It's always been singing and music. So yeah, and I do feel like uplifting art there needs to be a space for that now, because we've got too much of this Lady Gaga and Nicki Minaj and all this very dark, negative energy music full of just bad vibes and horrible videos. And I'm starting to feel like part of what I'm here to do at this moment is to take my music and my art and to touch people who want to be touched by it and just bring it forward.
Yeah. No, we have to own culture, totally. We have to take over culture. The difference between trends and fashion. Fashion is thought out from above and imposed below. Trends start among people, and then it grows and eventually becomes picked up at the top. So that's how it has to be. It has to come from us individual creators. I totally agree. And when I see your YouTube channel now, it's about where we were when we were a couple of years old. So you're at least growing, and I hope this people getting to know you can help that a little.
I hope so.
And I'm gonna rush and check out your music now, because that I haven't heard. Last question: are you settled in good old England, or are you actually in Spain?
Oh, I'm in Barcelona at the moment. I'm very much a nomad, so I've lived all over the place. Right now in Barcelona, but I am planning to head back to the UK sometime in the future. So I still don't know where my home is. I'm not sure I'm ever really going to have a solid home, or if I'm just one destined to roam.
Roam the globe with your positive vibes. Great. Well, if we're not meeting in Mainz, maybe we'll meet in Barcelona. My plan is to move there eventually. So good on you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, if I'm still here, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, thanks a lot for coming on and for this jolly good conversation.
Yeah, that was cool. I enjoyed it.
Great.
Well, thank you, Al, so much, and for having me and inviting me onto your wonderful show. And thanks to your listeners for listening. Well, thanks a lot. Okay. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, same. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that's it for now. I will have Rachel back in another series to pick her brain for advice on tantric relations. And by the way, she told me that everyone who tunes into this forum show today will get a huge discounted immune system reset. It is done remotely, and you will be sent a written report of all the work done and given tips as to how to prevent your immune system declining below 100% that are personal to you. Just mention it when you book one. Finally, I want to read you some quotes before parting. Since we've dealt with what commonly has been known as the Blue Chicken Cult. Philip Zimbardo said, "Many cults start off with high ideals that get corrupted by leaders or the board of advisors, who become power-hungry and dominate and control members' lives. No group with high ideals starts off as a cult. They become one when their errant ways are exposed." Benjamin Witt said, "Political as well as religious cults can be distinguished from legitimate organizations by their use of doublethink. Though political cults espouse extremist ideologies, not extremist theologies, operationally they are virtually identical to religious cults. And they also go to great lengths to control the vocabularies of their members." Keith Hansen said, "Even small cults are a serious cost on the world economy, to victims, their families, employers, friends, and credit card companies." And finally, Tim Berners-Lee said, "On the web, the thinking of cults can spread very rapidly, and suddenly a cult which was 12 people who had some deep personal issue suddenly find a formula which is very believable or appealing." Thus far today, thanks for tuning in. I've been your host Al, backed up by my faithful team. Until our paths cross again, be seen.
Who is number one?